Hey folks, good afternoon. And today we are going to make some drones fly. So, moving on from last night, we set up a status for the drone. It's got various statuses that's going to basically give us a sequence to go through, which we will initiate and gradually move through it. Now, these are basically, let's have a look at the status. So we have taking off, traveling to target, reach the target, drop to scan, scanning, rise from scan, returning home and landing. These are all the different statuses that the drone can have. And we're going to do this in a behaviour tree, okay? So we have set up our behaviour tree and we are working on our first set of instructions. Now already we have a couple of things. So when it's waiting, we start up the motors, we wait for 2 seconds plus and minus 3, then we set for takeoff. Then we take off, we set the first location, which is directly above, because the drone will basically go vertical. Then it will wait for 1 to 1 second. Sorry. What we do is we don't need this waiting thing, right? So in here, what we do is we set our next location directly above the drone. We start up the motors. We wait for a second. And then we move to the next location. Okay, so if that is all correct, now there could be one issue with this. So here we have our drone, okay? And if we send the probes to a position on the map, you'll see our things start happening. Our motors start up. And we are not moving. Now, I believe that's because our BP drone does not have a movement component. Okay. And it may also be because we don't have a nav mesh, except we do have a nav mesh. So let's stop that and try it again. Right? So if we hit our probes, you'll see disable breakpoint, resume, and it does not move. Okay? But that's okay, because the first part of it is working. We get our motors running. Sounds like lyrics to a song. Right, but anyway. So, what we want to do is actually check this and see what our actual values are, especially the Z. Okay? So, we shall do that again, but this time we'll check the values. And here we go. So we have an X value of that, Y value, and the interesting thing is going to be that, which is 40, which is okay, and this is 750, right? And then we set the next location, Okay. And then this is move location, so our next location, it says we are invalid. It's now not invalid. And it's not moving. So click on that. Next location, that's fine. We have the next location here, which is fine. Okay. For some reason, it isn't moving and it doesn't like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the map here, right? And I'm going to check our navigation. We should have a navigation mesh here. Now, where is it? Apparently that's big enough. So that's nav mesh bounds, okay? So that should be well big enough. So I'm kind of at a loss to why this isn't working. Because it should move to here. And as you can see, that's doing the right thing. Let's just check something here, right? Let's just check our rover. This is our BP vehicle. And it's actually got character movement. Okay. So if we go back to our drone, right, so it's max speed acceleration. Right, we'll click on can fly. I've got absolutely no idea what most of these things do. Okay. So if we go back to here, that is set and their value is set. This should become valid. Right, we're going to break that, disable that, resume. Now, don't ask me why this is not working. Let's try something here, right? Let's try something. That's a character. Okay, let's reparent this. To a character. Right, and we'll delete that. Now, has this got a mesh? The answer to that is no. So we'll save that. I'll play that. And apparently nothing happens. And that's probably because we go to the player base. We need to stop that for now, right? And if we go to the player base, we edit the blueprint. This is probably not right. So what we'll do is we'll go back to here. We shall change our mesh to the drone. We shall move this to here. We'll remove this. We'll save that. And this should be 40. And our capsule component and we'll say no collision for now. Where is our drone, basically, is the question. Right, so why do these things never quite work out how you expect? I mean, there's the drone, right? So we can delete that. So I'm guessing that our player base is not. Actually it is, we've got the landing base there. Hey Steve GT and Rob Heat. Nice to see you both here. I'm good, how are you guys today? Right, so why is it not spawning this drone? Games UK, thanks for the subscription earlier, by the way. Right, so this shouldn't actually be set to 40. This should actually be 0. Right. And what we need to actually do here is go back to our first map to make sure we're actually starting this from the right place. Well, good luck with that, Steve GT. Much luck to you. Whatever engine or whatever you use, that's up to you. Right, so there's something going on here, right? Because that just isn't spawning properly. In fact, it didn't even do this. Right? You'll notice it doesn't even go in here for some reason now. Right, what we'll do is we'll delete this. Right, and we shall spawn actor from class again. We'll just set this up again just to make sure. So we go drone, BP drone, and we split this struct. We go in here, we click there, save that, press play, continue. I know what the problem is. It's fallen down. It's doing the old gravity thing. Which isn't there. Gravity off. That off. Save that. Press play. Continue. What the hell? It's going to be one of these days, isn't it? It's going to be one of these days where nothing wants to work properly. You see that? It definitely is there, right? But it's basically fallen through the ground. Okay, so what we want to do is go back to our drone. And we want to look at it from the left or right, and you'll notice that the capsule is bloody miles out of the way. Right? So the capsule half height. Yeah, probably. I always forget about this shit. Right, hang on a second here. Right. Why can I not move the bloody component capsule? Right? Is the goddamn question. I mean, the capsule component is below the goddamn ground, which it shouldn't be. Right? I mean, the half height on that is still too big. Probably still. Maybe a bit bigger. Let's say 40. Yeah, that'll do. Then we'll go 68. Well, that's a bit weird. Okay, we'll go with that. Feck it. Right, and what I'm going to do is go back in here for now. We shall break this. We shall just manually set this to 100. We'll split that, drag that in, drag that in, press play, continue. Yeah, it's falling down. This goddamn thing. Right, let's go to the capsule component. Not simulating physics, not enable gravity, no collision. So that's okay. Mesh, physics, not enabled, not enabled. No collision. Save that. And then what we'll do is we'll drag it into the map. Right? And what we'll do is we'll plonk one down. Right? So we'll put it, let's say there. Or let's say in fact there. Right? And if we go back to our player base, we shall actually remove this so it doesn't try to do another one. We'll save that, and then we'll see how it reacts to this, shall we? Because it ain't reacting how we expected it to the last time. And there it goes, falling through the ground. And there is no physics on. And gravity is not enabled. Alright. Click that off. right? So there's nothing there that means that this damn thing should be doing anything. Certainly not falling through the goddamn ground. Maybe we actually should simulate physics. Oh, I can never mind about this. We can check the vehicle in a minute and see how it's set up, because it certainly doesn't fall through the ground. Right, okay, whatever. And block all. These should never actually, there we go. Right. So there we have our thing. And now it's deciding not to do this. Ah, okay. So what's the mesh called? Mesh. Okay. It's fairly obvious, I suppose. So this was this here. So we go get mesh. Okay. Well, it is moving. It's just not getting the next position. Or at least it is, but it isn't moving to it. Okay? So it still doesn't like this play animation. For whatever reason. Okay. Play animation. Okay. Let's try that again. Might be just a bit confused because we reset the mesh thing. Right, so we'll go with drone S2, K2 or whatever it is. Okay, so now you don't like that for some. Ah, this is a different one. Right, okay, whatever. So that is just mesh. Let's just get mesh. So this was basically two different errors that looked kind of the same, which confused us. Right, so we'll come over here and have a better look at it. We'll do that, then that. It is still giving us errors. Interesting. So that's a nothing burger. And that's a nothing burger. So this is weird. We didn't set that to looping. Okay, what we'll do, for the sake of doing weird shit, right, is the next thing is traveling to target, right? So we want a task that says travel to the target, okay? So if we go back into our drone AI, we shall create that, right? And we shall call it set travel to target. Okay, we shall open that up, and what we basically need to do here is we need one more variable, which is target destination, and that's going to be a selector, blackboard key selector, and we need to make it public. We'll save that for now. And instead of this, right, and we don't need this, we'll keep this as a reference just in case, but we don't, yeah, we actually do. We get the blackboard value, but not this. Well, we could do that, but we're going to get the target destination as well. Okay. And we set the next location that shouldn't be a vector. That should be a vector, sorry. Right, so this is going to be a vector. So it's get value as vector. And we split this up. Then we plug X and Y in. Okay. And we finally we get that, and we set enum we do that. And we now use this to set status in our actual drone blueprint, and that is traveling to target. Okay. So we put it here, and then we join up here, and then we plug that in here. So we're setting it in the blueprint and we're setting it in the blackboard, and then we finish execute, and then in here we delete this and we move to, now in this case what we'll do is we shall actually turn, can't remember what it's called, rotate to face BB entry. Okay, and it's going to be next location, and then this is going to move to next location, and that should do us. Right, so we'll let it run on this, and we'll see if it does anything, and then what we'll do is we'll do a wait, right, except we'll make it wait for a minute just to give us a view of what's going on. Okay, so if we click on the probe, and our problem is that it's never moving. Now it's got the next location, but it never moves. Okay. Character mesh 0. Okay, whatever. Say block all just for now. Now, actually, you know what we'll do? We're gonna have to check our map again, right? I'm just wondering if I think it is, right? There's no way that our navigation mesh is not high enough, right? It's not colliding with anything at the moment, right? Is this our collision mesh, nav mesh here? No, that's the light importance. This is the navigation mesh, right? Now, you're not telling me that that isn't high, right? You're just not. I'm not buying it, okay? So let's drag a drone in. and let's make it 700 odd high, right? So that's not even anywhere near the height of the navigation mesh, right? And that's only set to 2240. So that is not the issue, right? Our nav mesh is perfectly big enough. It's something to do let's have a look at our vehicles again. Let's have a look at our vehicle. Character movement, blah de blah. Right, and what we'll do is we'll check it against the drone. Right. So we'll check the character movement against this one. Right, that's 1, 1, 2, 2, 10, 40, that's fine. Right, walking, swimming. I mean, I don't know. That's all looks okay. Alright, let's take a check on this. Okay, there's absolutely nothing different about these. So this is weird. Hey, no, I can do a bit of C++. I wouldn't say I'm anything other than a complete beginner, but I can do a few things. Normally when I'm setting up blueprints, I set them up now with C++ empty parent, just so that if I want to do some heavy calculations in C++, then basically I can. Right, so I don't know if it's to do with the physics, because it's set up in the same way as the car. I mean, I suppose gravity might keep it down, but I'm kinda, I mean, I'm pretty sure I switched gravity off on both of them. So gravity's not enabled, right? And on the actual mesh, again, gravity ain't enabled. So it's kind of a bit bizarre. I mean, what we could do, right? What we could do is, I never actually put that task in. It's not the way, this isn't going to be a physics thing, right? This is the thing about it. I'm just basically kind of making up a sequence of events that happen to the drone that control how, like, it takes off, and then it's going to tilt, and then it's going to fly, and then it's going to straighten, then it's going to lower, and then it's going to scan, and basically the reverse of that, right? So it isn't going to be controlled by physics at all, right? Now, the point here is I never actually set this other thing. I never set it to travel to the target, which, goofball, yep, I admit it, goofball again. So, I'm not thinking this is going to do anything different, but we're going to muck about with things here to see if it'll move on the Y and X if we actually set the target to that, right? So, because in the end, I don't actually need to set it to do this using navigation. I could just lerp, you know, I could just basically lerp the damn thing up if I really wanted to, you know. But it'd be kind of nice to get it working. Right, but you'll notice it's basically stuck here. Well, I'm going to need to disable this breakpoint, but it never moves. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically do that. And then this will automatically set it to do this, which is all on the X and Y, right? So in theory, this would be well, whatever this is, it ain't working. Yeah, okay, whatever. That's because I didn't set it up properly, which is easy to forget, I can assure you. So that's status, and next location, fly height, and target location. So we shall try that again. Drag that out of the way. And yeah, it's something to do with this. It's something to do with the movement, right? I'm thinking it's to do with, if you look at the BP character, right? Use controller. Right, okay. So that's the vehicle, right? If you look at the drone, it's set up the same. Right, this doesn't actually matter because it's not controlled by the player controller. Now, what I'm actually thinking, right, is this is only a little thought here, right? This is only a little. If I enable gravity, we'll check this. This is the vehicle, right? So we'll go back to the pawn, the drone, right? And enable gravity. And the thing now is this is basically gonna, we don't simulate physics. We'll set that to a pawn. We'll set this up exactly the same. And the reason I'm doing this, right, is because I think it'll work on the ground. Right? It's basically going to work on the ground. So it'll act like a car. Okay? So we enable, so mesh, we don't simulate physics, we enable gravity, and we basically say character mesh, right? So I think, this is my prediction, I think the drone is going to fall to the ground and it's actually going to work, right? It's actually going to fall to the ground and then it's actually going to turn and move, okay? So, well, it didn't fall, that's for sure. It turned, see? Now, here's the interesting part, right? I think if we put it on the ground, okay, now, has it done what I think it should have done? Maybe. Right? So if we hit a probe, starts up, turns around. Now it doesn't move, which is interesting. Right, let's see if we can actually force it. Right? Because I think it's constrained on the I think it's actually constrained. So let's see if we go, let's say we go 200, right? This is just for testing purposes, but we'll do it anyway. and it just never does it. Right, so let's say we'll just give it some ridiculous number, so it should really pass this test. But again, it seems to me that our I'm an idiot. Because this should be a sequence, not a selector. Right? What a bleeding idiot. Status and traveling to target, then this should go to here, this should go to here, and this should go to here. Okay, then this should go to here. Save that. Now, I think this is going to scuttle along the ground, right? That's my prediction. And well, you see, it is kind of doing it, but it's never actually hitting the next location. Now, I kind of don't believe interesting. I'm trying to think of a way to do this here. I suppose the easiest way to do this would be to actually not use the nav mesh, right? And basically lerp it. You know, like actually move it, not with the with the behavior tree. I mean, I could still control certain things with the behavior tree here, right, as a sequence, because it's a fairly easy way to do it. But the actual movement, right? I mean, we could do the face, right, because that works. But the actual move to, we could actually set up a task to do that, right, that actually moves it, lerps the actor, because I don't think this is going to work with a navigation mesh, because we're never actually touching the navigation mesh, right? Especially if you were in the air. If any of you guys have got any ideas on that, I mean, as I said, it's kind of a brute forcing it to do that, to move all the next locations as a task. Right, it's kind of brute forcing it, but I mean, this would have been an elegant way of doing it, but I don't think you can do it. I think there's I'm checking a Google here. I'm going to do nav mesh for like aeroplane. Right, I mean, even still, right, so the idea I had, which actually Google have used a similar idea, right, is to use another nav mesh and like have it at a certain height, right, and then put a plane in it, okay? So fundamentally what it would be like was this nav mesh here, right, would basically, let's say that would be 10, right? So that would be here, okay? Now, we'd set up a separate nav mesh above this, right? We'd have to obviously do our calculations on one and the other. So maybe this would have to be even less than this. What? Is that the nav mesh? That's the light mass importance, right? Hang on a second. Can't be right. Right. So that's 40, 40, 10, right? Yeah, I mean, the things that we were trying to do were inside this anyway, right? So I'm not going to actually worry too much about that. So if we make this 5 high, right? Well, that's weird. Actually, it's not. It's because this is locked. Right, so... Right, so say we set the nav mesh like that, right? So it's pretty low. Okay, but these are just basically to cover land-based stuff, right? And if we check the height of it, it's basically about there. So it's still even pretty high, right? But let's say our robots fly at 1,000, okay? That might be high enough that it's not in this nav mesh, right? So let's say if we were to move this like that, right, we can see that this nav mesh is still above, right? So what we'd need to do is basically bring it down to, let's say, there. And even that's still too high. No, it's not. No, that's okay. Right, so now what we're saying is this nav mesh here, and then what we do is we put another nav mesh on top. Right, so we can see that this is below our drone, okay? But then what we do is we put a nav mesh on top and then put a plane, an invisible plane up here. And basically then the drone can move on that nav mesh, yeah? Or the other answer is basically to just lerp it. Anytime we do a movement, we just lerp it. And that would save any of this pissing about. So with that in mind, it's time for a cigarette, back in 2.5 minutes, and we shall start just forcing it. Okay? Because that's what we like to do. Hi there Mr. Spock and Vidge Neon. I shall be back in 2 minutes. hit the subscribe button. Okay, guys, we're back. Now, we're just going to force this. I've decided. Right, so basically, what we're going to do is we're going to use our next location thing, right? But we're going to use it in a slightly different way. Okay, so what we're actually going to do is create another task here. So if we go into our drone, we're going to create a custom event. Okay, and we're going to call it move to, and we're going to pass in a destination, which is going to be a vector, and we're going to create a timeline. and we're going to add the timeline, and we're going to rename it. Where's the rename? I want to rename you. Right. We can do it up here, I suppose. And we'll call it TL move. And in the first instance, right, so we're going to do a float, we'll call it time, and we'll add our two keys. We're just going to get it to do it in a, let's get it to do everything in 2 seconds, right? Are you going to play silly buggers now, are you? Right, so in here, set it 0, 0, and set this to 2, 1. Then we'll hit our button to bring it back into scale. Right, save that. Back to event graph. And we're going to lerp from one to the other. Right, and we're right, okay, that's fine. And what we ought to do is get world location. Actually, actor location. Hey Pastor, how you doing, mate? And in update, we're going to get a reference to self. Then set actor location. And then we're going to lerp vector, and we're going to lerp between here and destination. Doing good, mate. A couple of problems, but nothing we can't strong arm our way through. So we do that. And our new location goes here. We're going to mess with this later on so that the length of the spline, or sorry, not the length of the spline, the distance that we're traveling will determine the speed that it actually moves to it. Right, so that it doesn't do everything in 2 seconds. So if you're moving to the other side of the map, it doesn't go like a rocket, and if you're moving like an inch, it doesn't go really, really slow, right? But for the moment, we shall just do this, right? And the next thing is we shall where are we? We'll go back to here, right? And we'll go back to the AI, and we shall create another task. So we shall duplicate that, and it's going to be called move to. Okay. Then in here, we're going to get our drone. We're not going to do that. And we're not going to do that, but we are kind of going to do this. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our drone and we're going to say move to, right? We're going to split this and we're going to do that, that, and that, and that. And then we're going to do that. Okay? So, how that's going to end up looking for us is when it does take off, it's just setting the thing. So that's fine, because I don't think we even do that. This basically sets our motors running, but we don't do this. What we actually do is this. Okay, we don't do it that way then. Okay, and we remember to set these up properly this time. Next location is next location, and fly height is fly height. And similarly, what we do here is we do exactly the same thing. Tasks, move to. Then we set this up properly, so that's status. Not that we need the status for this, and the only actual thing we need is this next location plus the fly height. Okay, save that, and what we'll do is we'll bring this right down to the ground. Literally we can switch off everything that we switched on as far as gravity and all that goes, right? So what we'll do is we'll keep an eye on our little thing. There you go. Wasn't that cool? And we need this next location. Right, so we need to make sure this is set up right. And that should be the target destination. So let's have a look at that again. If we click on here, what we want to see is our blackboard numbers. Okay. So basically, if we put a breakpoint here, and we start this off, right? And we do our probe thing. Right, you'll see it fly up. or it should have. There's it flew up. Now what we want to see is the target location right, and that's 2. So whatever that is was the same. Right? So that's a bit weird. That's a bit wacky weird. Right, I'll tell you what. Let's have a look at that again, right? What I want to know is, add breakpoint, right? Before we do anything, we want to know what the target destination is, right? And it's 02000. So basically this is wrong. Okay? This is wrong. This should not be 02000. Because I believe that that is the position of the drone. Well, actually it's not. That's interesting. Okay. Hang on a second. Have I screwed this up? Possibly. Okay. So let's do that. So it is doing its spinny thing. And our next location is 03000, right? So the question has to be, why didn't it do this? Or why did it do it wrong? Put it that way. So let's have a look at that. I'm doing good, Passer. Just working on this. Want this thing to fly today. I was hoping to do it in a different manner, but apparently not. But hey, that's just the way it goes sometimes, you know. Right, so we have it doing this, right? But we want to check what this is. Minus, so this is our next location. But apparently it should be this. Minus 1, 5000. Okay. Right, we resume that. And resume. So it's now been set to the proper thing. Resume that. And now we are going to position X, 2060, 3500, and that'll be 750. We step into, and our 260, 35, 625. I don't quite understand why okay. Let's think about this again. Our target is when we click on a probe, okay? When we click on the grid. Right? So basically, this sets our has target to true and target location to whatever position we click on, right? So if we add a breakpoint here, we'll find out what the target location is. Now this target location should never really change, right? But it's really the X and the Y that we're worried about, right? Because there'll be a fly height and a scanning height. So we basically never use the height or the Z that we actually target. That's all determined by what height the drone is flying at. So if it flies at 750 and then drops to 250 to do the scanning, you know, it's never going to use the Z of the actual target. It's just going to use the X and the Y, right? That's my thinking behind this at the moment, right? So basically what we want to do is we want like a number that's away over here or something. So if we do a probe over here and click, right, we'll see what our vector is. Right, so it's 1000, 6000. Okay? So if we resume that and go back to our drone, the target should always be 1000, 6000. Right? Now, the next location, when we do this, if we add breakpoints at each point here, right? That's taken off, right? And then the next one is this, which is rotate to face it and then move to it, right? So if we resume, we can see that this is completely different, which is fine, right? Because basically we want the position of the drone and then the height of 750, right? So basically when it does this, it goes in there and we're getting the actor, right, which is the minus 260, 350, which is absolutely fine. Right? So if we now look at our drone, we can see our drone gradually moving up here. But our problem is right, what we'll do is we'll stop that just now, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a weight in here. This is just a test, right? Because this is taking X amount of time, I need to know that it's completed its task. Right, now we could do this so that's absolutely fine, but it might be freaking it out if we're in the middle of lerping the thing and we don't give it a chance to actually finish. It might just be losing its shit. Okay. And there we go. So you can see now it's moved. Right? And now we're setting it to travel to target. So if all is right, it should scoot down here somewhere. And we're now going to face the next location, which should be, yeah, round about there. It should be our target location now, okay? And that is correct. And when we call this, that is incorrect. Right, so this is rubbish, okay? This is absolute jackass crap. Right, this should be next location, and that should be get blackboard vector, okay? And that is bullshit. So this is going to go back in here, and that should be the correct thing. Our next location is getting set depending on where it is in the sequence, right? So this should be correct. So we can basically set this, and again what we'll do is we shall do our probes here. That'll do it, right? We're going to disable that and resume. Right, we're just going to gradually disable these. Disable, 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 right? So everything is disabled apart from one more thing, which is this. Oh, no, it's not. It's in here. Disable. And now we go for it. And there we go. Right, I'll do that again, but we'll do it a bit further away so that you can actually see shit happening. Right, so there's our thing there. We're going to be heading towards here. It zooms over there, zooms over here. There you go. How's about that? Okay. So the next thing, and this was probably the best way to do this, to be honest. Right, so we've got this, and this is fine. And we need to go back to here, and we need another we need another Blackboard key here, right, which is going to be a float, and it's going to be scan height. Okay. Now I wish you could actually I wish you could set defaults on these without actually having to set it up, but apparently you can't, or at least I can't see how you do, but we'll not worry about that. Right, so we'll go into the drone, and we shall go to here, and what we'll do is in our BP drone we're going to set another variable as well, and we'll call it, believe it or not, scan height. And this is just a place for us to set up the defaults, right, that we can pass across to our Blackboard and AI, right? So let's say our scan height is what do you think, guys? 100? We'll eyeball it once. We'll hit 100 and see what we think. In fact, in the meantime, right, well, we'll just leave it as it is, right? But what we'll do is we'll check on this, right? And that's actually at 110. Right, so I'm thinking that the scan height's going to have to be about, let's say, what, 250? Will we go with 250? Yeah, why not? Right, so if we go back, 250 sounds good to me. We might actually, what we might do is change the actual fly height and make it fly a bit higher. Right, but what I want to happen, this is the point here, right? What we're going to have happen here is that the actual player base, right? The actual player base will house these drones and spawn them, which was what was happening before until all the shit happened, right? And in actual fact, I could change this back to a pawn, which means it would work, right? So that's basically going to sit there, right? That's kind of the point here. So that's more representative of what's actually going to happen. So what we do then is, what was the doing? Yeah, right, okay. I was going to show you basically what I want to actually happen, right? What I want it to do is rise up, right? Then basically spin around to face, and then I want it to basically go like that, so that it kind of is like it flies at a kind of angle, you know? Not a lot in angle, but just a bit of an angle, right? That's the plan. So we can basically do that. And then that was what, about 80 or something? Maybe a bit higher than that. Yeah, let's say 100. Okay, let's say 90. Right, we'll call it 90. Right? So that's what I want to happen. Right? So the next point is, or the next task we have to do is, in our tree, once it reaches here, it's going to have to do another task here, and it's basically going to say drop to scan. It's going to set the new location, and then it's going to say drop to scan, right? So we can say duplicate that, and then we can say drop set to drop to scan. Okay, and in here we remove this animation because it's already playing. We don't do this, or do we? No, we don't. Right, I think we've missed something here. That's going to be another thing. Right, so we've set our blackboard, okay, for scan height. Okay, so we need to use that now. So we set this, and it's scan height. Okay, and it's going to be a key selector, and we've got to make it public, and basically it gets plugged straight in there, and we get our next location, and we say vector. Actually, yeah, we can do this, right? Because now our target and our target and our next location, X and Y, are actually the same, so we could use either or, right? So there's that. Okay. So we set up our next location, execute finish. And if we go back to here, oh wait a minute, there's another thing we need to do here. Right, with our drone we need to update the status. So set status, and this is now going to be drop to scan, and that's going to go there. And we've got one more thing to do, which is basically getting that, then enum, and we set the blackboard to be this and this, and we plug in this and we save that. Okay, and that should fire us to the next stage of what we're doing. So in here, what we can do is another one of these, and we're basically going to change this to 3 seconds, and then we're going to do move to BT task move to, of course. Then we're going to do status, next location, fly height, and in this case, we're not actually going to use fly height. Right? We're not going to use this. We're actually going to use the next location. Right? Because when we set this, when we set the drop to scan, we're using the scan height here and setting that as the next location. Right? So we need to actually check this to make sure that we're not using this at the wrong time. So we'll move in a bit so we can see what it's going to do. And there we go. Okay. So at this point, we don't use this, right? And what we've got to do here is tasks, set to drop to scan. Okay. So we'll move this down a bit. Then we'll grab all these and move them out that way a bit. We'll save that. Okay. And we shall do a wait for 3 seconds again, I suppose. We probably will calculate these, right? But we shall try this again, see how it goes. So it should shoot up into there, shoot across here, then drop down. Drop down anytime you like. And apparently it doesn't want to drop down. Ah, I've not set that up properly, what a donkey. Always forget this. So that's status, next location, fly height, and scan height. Now, the thing is here, the DAS, I don't think I've set up this in the AI. Right, so basically what we need to do is another one of these. And drag it into here. Right, and drag that into here. And then this is going to be scan height. Scan height. Right, and then we're going to pull it from here. And that's going to give us scan height. Okay. Then we can drop it down here, make it look pretty. Always worth making it look pretty. We'll straighten it out, right? So we straighten it out, save that, press play, and test it. As I said, what I'm going to do is, in between, or if I have time, I shall make it go at a reasonable speed. Drop. There we go. Lovely. How's about that then? Now, actually, I'm going to show you this, guys, right? I'll do that again. I'll show you what the intention is here, right? My intention is that it'll shoot up, shoot across, come down, and then it will start weaving around with the light on it. Now, there is a light on this, right? And it's going to basically scan this area, right? And you'll see it like doing like a zzz, zzz, zzz type thing, right? That's the plan. But that's going to be for once we have everything ready to go. Now, the issue now is, what have I got, or the thing that I want to check first is I want to check what our home location is, okay? So we'll press play, we can click that, but I want to see in here what our home location is. Now, do we have, no, we do not. We do not have a home location, right? So basically, what I need to do here is set this home location, because if this is invalid, it can't fly back, right? So we're going to stop that, okay? And what I really want to do here is, not that anyway. What we want to do with this thing is, we don't actually need it to be a character anymore, right? We can actually set it back to the way it was and set it back to be parented to a pawn, right? So if I just say pawn, and it doesn't need this character movement either. Right, whatever. Do what you want. Right? So basically what I want to do is get this drone and delete it, right? We better make sure it is a drone first. Apparently it is, right? And I'm going to reset this up offline, because you'll notice it has absolutely sod all. So we're going to have to set it to be a mesh. So it is a skeletal mesh, I believe, and we just called it mesh. And that, in fact, well, we've kind of screwed that up, haven't we? Because the spotlight should be on that. Can we? Apparently not. Right. I don't want this to be... See, if I delete these, the whole thing's going to die. Right, okay, we're deleting you then. Right, so that actually was okay, right. So this mesh is going to be the drone. So excuse me a minute, I'm just going to set this back up again. And we'll just have it as the pawn. Okay, and then it's probably going to break all my tasks, but hey ho, that's how it goes. Then we shall do our spotlight, and our spotlight is going to be on the front. Right, so basically that can go here. Now, I have got a sneaky plan for this, right? I've got a sneaky plan. And what it involves is basically doing 4 invisible planes that are going to block the light except in a thin strip, right? And that's my very sneaky plan. Okay? But we'll worry about the sneaky plan later, right? So we'll save that, and now practically everything is going to be frickin' broken. Except the start engines one is the one that's not going to be working properly, I believe. And it's still called mesh, so it's okay. Yeah, it still works. Right, and now if we go back to our player base, we can plug this in. right? And we can basically set up the home location, right? So if we go into our base BP drone, we can add a variable and call it home location. And when we've done that, we can set that to a vector. Right? And what we can do next is we can set that up in our player base, right? So we can say home, set home location, and incredibly what we could do here is when it spawns we can say location, and we can actually just get the actor location and then plug that straight in there, and that'll do our location. Okay, and now in here we can set our final one. So we drag off here and we say set value as vector. Okay, so we do that and we make a literal name, and I'm pretty sure this is just actually home location. We'll check that in a minute, but I'm pretty sure it is. So home location, and that's the key name in the blackboard, and then we pop along to here, we drag off here again and we say home, get home location. Okay, we drag this up to here a bit, got a sticky mouse again, we'll drag all these, then we'll align to the right, then we shall straighten the connection to there, we shall drag this along and into here, then put this in here and straighten that one. And if we now test it, press play, our drone is there, as you can see, and if we check, we have a home location which is 0000, which is something we don't want, to be honest. So if we go back to here and go to BP player base, what we can do is we can do that. It looks like this has ended up with some sort of relative actor position, or maybe I'm doing it too quick, possibly. But either way, let's just set this up the good old fashioned way, shall we? and we'll basically set that to the same. Now that should be that, and if we press play and we go to our drone, and our home location is still 000, which means that I need to do a little thing here, which is to put a delay in, I believe. So if we add our little delay in, and we'll get it to delay by there, and let's see how that goes. There we go. There's our home location now. So now we can basically set it to travel back, which was the last thing I wanted to get done. So if you've enjoyed the stream, hit the subscribe button and pop in again, or watch some of the older videos which are more of the same type of thing. Check out the description for Discord, Patreon and my previous Steam game, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in about 4 hours, 8 PM Central. I'll be back. Bye for now.